Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition here of the Big Bluecast. Today is Tuesday, February the 2nd. We are deep and meaty into basketball season at this point. We're kind of rounding the corner to kind of head down the stretch. I'm gonna have a lot to talk about, obviously, with basketball since the last time I
Right.
checked in with you guys. Before we get to that, since that's going to be kind of like the meat and potatoes, I think today of what we talk about, let's go ahead and just cover like football business. Anything we really need to go back and glance over. I mean, really, like what the SEC, the football schedules for 2021 have come out in the past week or so. Have you gotten a chance to take a look at that yet?
I haven't actually.
Really?
Yeah, I've,
Okay.
I've been kind of watching
Let's
the
see.
ball team and all the crap there. Rifle team's 12-1, so
Yeah. Let's see. Let me pull up their schedule for 2021 real quick. We'll just kind of gloss over it, what we think about it.
okay.
Um, yeah, I was super prepared for this episode, as you can
Well,
tell.
we've had a little bit of time
We
between
have, yeah,
episodes. It's
yeah. I mean, yeah, and yeah, just kind of like a little disclaimer out there. That's one reason we've kind of taken some time, just just the general state of like the basketball team and everything going on right now. It's made more sense, especially to just kind of when we get to what seems like little chapter ends for how things are going, kind of like logical sort of endpoints, lack of a better term, you know, because it would really stink to get on here just like on a weekly basis and just be like, well, we still stink and there's nothing
yeah.
else really going on. So um, but yeah, we're kind of hitting like another kind of way station on this season, so we'll have plenty to talk about with that. But let's see, for 2021, first game we have be September 4th at Commonwealth or not Commonwealth Stadium, Kroger Field. Will play ULM, followed by a home game versus Missouri, followed by a home game versus Chattanooga. Then we play at South Carolina. Then we play at home against Florida. Then we get home against LSU, followed by at Georgia. Then we get our bye week. Then we play at Mississippi State. We play at home against Tennessee, at Vanderbilt, home New Mexico State, then at Louisville. Um, when I first saw that, I mean, especially if you're talking like comparatively speaking to like what we dealt with this year, definitely a lot more manageable of the schedule. I mean, yeah, we got a few hard games on there. Florida game's gonna be tough, Georgia game's gonna be tough, but all in all, like I don't think it's that bad of a schedule, all things considered, um, compared to what it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, it shouldn't be bad at all.
Yeah, like I look at that and I go, okay, especially considering kind of what the makeup of next year's team is looking like, and how good we should be on paper. To me, that looks like a very feasible to be like an 8 or 9 win regular season. If you're talking, probably you're going to lose at Georgia, Florida game, that'd be a tough win. Um, LSU game be tough, but other than that, like it looks like there's a really clear path to having a really big time year next year if everything kind of comes together, and if our new offensive coordinator slash quarterback coach works out, the quarterbacks themselves, deliver and do well. Yeah, I mean, I think that's exciting. Like, I think it
Yeah.
definitely shouldn't be as just kind of rough and tumble of a year as this year was. Um, you know, it's interesting. Could be another like opportunity for kind of a breakout season. Kind of hit a different level for the program. So, um, yeah, whenever that came out, I was quite excited after kind of running up and down it because our first three games are against easier teams and they're all at home.
Yeah. I
So I
mean,
mean,
that's sure beats last year's schedule.
yeah, like looking at it very conceivably, you could start the year 4-0 as long as you just don't screw up somewhere along the way.
Well, and as
Like if
many
they,
people as we have coming back, we should have a pretty solid team.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they've got some good stuff coming in, like a lot.
Fresh play
Like we
calling.
said, yeah, like we said, like we'll really break down at some point. Exactly who else coming back, exactly who we're getting. Like once we know 100%, kind of where all that stands. But yeah, looking at that, it could be a very exciting time. October 2nd, we could be playing Florida at home, coming in 4-0, looking to go 5-0, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, to think that it's very possible you could get to 6 wins before you take your first loss at Georgia. I mean,
Right.
heck, bring it on. Like, that it's interesting because it's like that kind of puts us in different territory than we're used
Oh
to
yeah.
with Kentucky football, where it looks like it's it's all there for the taking for us. It's just as long as we don't screw it up. It's not like it doesn't feel like with that schedule we're just like fighting an uphill battle and just hoping for the best.
Yeah. And it seems like we've that was last season.
Yeah,
We didn't have any warm up games. It was straight into the grind,
just right
and
in. I mean,
it never really let up.
at all. No, no, because even the games we were playing against, the lesser SEC teams, like never really, hardly really any like easy games. But even then, the ones that were considered easier games were just like smashed in between two really difficult ones, where we were getting just beat up. So no aspect of this past season was easy or just kind of cupcake-ish. This one has that written all over it. I mean, there's wins galore on that
Right,
schedule.
and it's just the way it kind of works sometimes. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it looks like it's kind of gone in our favor for next year. So just take that and hope we have as special of a team as we think, and just kind of roll with it.
right, hopefully it don't turn out like the basketball team hype.
Whew, man. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's going to be a very hyped off season for football, but I think especially considering current events, Kentucky sports people are going to be looking and going, okay, let's not jump on a hype train right away. Like, let's
Yeah,
kind of see how this goes at first, and then we'll get really excited if it looks like they're as good as we think they are. Um, I mean, on the football side of things, like, is there any other stuff you really want to talk about this time, or are we still kind of in, wait till we know more for certain mode?
I think it's kind of wait till we know more for certain. It's still a long ways off. We're still going to
Oh,
have commitments that decommit. We're going to have
yeah.
people who decommit from other schools and commit to us.
Absolutely.
There's
There's still a long way to go.
there's a long way to go. We do know we got a good class coming back, so we've got a pretty
Hmm.
good idea of what our starting lineup is going to be for the football team, and it's
Yeah,
looking promising. That's for sure.
yeah, looking very promising. It sounds like just the overall vibe and feel around the program right now, like we talked about, some weeks back, getting that, final regular season win over South Carolina and then going and winning the bowl game, kind of took a fan base and a program that were just kind of beat into the ground from that season, and that kind of was a shot in the arm, injected some new life into everybody. It felt like, and it seems like going into the off season like this just paid dividends. They seem to be in a really good place, so it's all really exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of not really exciting stuff, on the basketball side of things, um, oh man,
Right?
it's been a doozy this year. See what we're sitting at 5-10 right now. Since the last time we really talked about all this stuff, I mean, it's basically just kind of been lather, rinse, repeat. It seems like every time the team gets just like a decent win and looks like they might be showing some kind of, turning the corner, some kind of promise, then we get just like just either beaten into the ground, or we just have like this disappointing loss that we wish we could have
We're up to
overcome.
what, 4 games now we've lost in the last.
Yeah.
I mean, between we got 4 games we lost last second shot.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
there's four that were like 3 points or less.
yeah.
Um,
And then this game here, this last one, it was another one of those games. I mean, we that was our game to lose, and we lost it.
that Alabama game is probably for me I mean, obviously, like losing to Louisville always stinks. We lost to Kansas by like what 3 points.
Yeah.
We had some losses there where you could even early in this process you could look at it and say the record doesn't exactly. I mean, we weren't playing well; we were bad, but it's not like we were getting crushed every game. We were playing like good level competition and in a lot of those games and just coming up a little bit short. We were playing well enough to kind of like take them out of their own game. It was close. We just couldn't like finish down the stretch. To me, like one that has just been more of a backbreaker. One because like so much of the season just hinged upon it was this Alabama game that was a week ago because that would have been a really good quality win
Mm-hmm.
against a top 10 team. Like it looked like for basically 36, 37 minutes of that game, like even though it was kind of a dogfight, I felt pretty confident. Like if they can just keep their foot on the gas here, like we got them because we took them. I mean, Alabama, same 3 point shooting team. Like they have their very just like strict style of play. We kind of took them out of that. Um, we
Yeah.
did some stuff that looked good, we did some other stuff that didn't look good,
Yep.
but we were in the fight.
Yep.
Like,
And honestly, I think at the end too, some of the officiating got a little
mm,
one-sided.
it really
I
did.
mean,
Yeah, and
Kentucky shot
we've talked
six
before
free
about
throws.
oh gosh, even in the second half. I mean, you saw where they'd already shot like 14 or something, and we'd only shot one or two.
Yeah.
It's like you can't say that that's balanced officiating. I mean, you can say what you want about like what we were seeing on the court, and that was pretty glaringly obvious.
Yeah.
But
And don't be wrong, the team has
we,
problems.
yeah, oh yeah.
And if they
I mean,
didn't have
they're
those
covered in
problems, we'd have
warts.
still won that game, even with the bad
Absolutely.
officiating. But
Yeah.
we've got a young team, and let's face it, that
Hmm.
officiating it got into their head finally, and
Hmm.
if they was like, I can't do anything right.
They just kind of
Yeah,
and
they couldn't play
we've had
defense
teams.
anymore.
Yeah, we've had teams in years past that like even when that sort of thing is happening and you feel like the officials are kind of trying to take us out of it, like we've had teams that just kind of push through it and overcome it. They out talent the other side and it just works out. This year, I mean, they're both young and like even the older guys that are there have like this is their first
Yeah,
year.
we
Like
have the
they're
flop rule now. When are they going to start calling that? I mean,
that
seriously,
I've
there
been
was
curious.
so many times Alabama's guys just throw their head back as
Yeah,
soon as our guy got the ball before he even made a
absolutely.
motion. He just sweep around with the ball and just make a lunge back and offensive foul. And it's
Yeah.
like,
I mean,
okay.
there's been a lot more of that this year, especially when the NCAA and everybody talked about tightening up those kind of rules to prevent flopping because it just got so
Yeah.
ridiculous at the college level. Saying correct me if I'm wrong. Hadn't they said like maybe a couple years ago they were going to try to start instituting like flops would be assessed as like technical fouls?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I've never seen that happen once.
Well, they did go
Like
to the monitor
once.
on that one play to determine
Exactly.
if it should have been, and they decided that they just reversed the
Yeah.
call.
Yeah,
But
because
they
I was
didn't give
trying
him
to
a
figure
technical.
that
It's
out.
like,
What
okay.
as soon as they said they're going to the monitor, I'm like, they got him. Like they're gonna go, and that'll be like the first time we see this. They looked at what everyone else at home was watching, which was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was very reminiscent of several years back when Chris Jones for Louisville, when Dakari Johnson's elbow was about 20 feet away from his head, and he threw the head back, and Jay Billis called him out and said he was ridiculous and everything. It was like that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you could see the space on the TV that he didn't even touch the guy and still called it a foul, didn't assess a technical, just moved
Yeah,
on.
it kind
Like,
of
then
puts
why'd
you
you even
back
go
to
to the
that
monitor?
college football championship between Bama and Ohio
Yeah,
State. The Ohio State players sold it so well that
yeah,
the coach threw a flag down challenging the
yeah.
call,
Put his
lost them a
challenge out. Yeah,
timeout. Not that it mattered anyways, but
yeah,
still, yet lost them a timeout because of the challenge.
yeah. And probably figured like this is a slam dunk of a challenge. Like, there's no way and it didn't
It was
matter.
blatantly obvious,
I mean,
you
just
know.
egregious.
Yeah, but in the Big
But
Ten, they'd have probably got the call in their favor anyways. Um,
yeah,
you know, so maybe not all on the player. But once again, it just shows how
yeah,
the officials need to start
yeah,
punishing. I mean, NBA, they get fined. They go back and review
yeah.
every game. After the game, if it's determined that you made a
Mhm.
flop and it caused a bad call, you get fined for it.
Right.
You can't
Right.
find college players, but what you could do is sit there and say, hey, they have to sit the first 5 minutes of the game. I don't care if it is one of your starters.
Yeah. Yeah. Some sort of, yeah, just deterrent
Yeah,
that's actually going to really matter. Whether it's assessing like flagrant or, making them sit or whatever,
yeah,
like a penalty box kind of
yeah.
thing.
Look, you sit out the first
Um,
half, you get to play second half of the game. Kind of like a targeting call. If
yeah.
it's in the second half, you sit out the whole first half of the next game.
Yeah. But they've got to do something, especially across the board, not to bellyache about officiating and stuff too much, but like, people have been saying this for the last like what probably 3 years, like where especially in the SEC, but in college ball for the most part altogether, like officiating has just gotten so bad, like it ruins what could be really good games. And this was one of them where, especially in the second half, it was like they just you know they noticed that whistle and just had to blow it every single play, usually against us, but like especially when it wasn't a pretty basketball game and both teams were struggling in their own respective ways.
Yeah, and
But
if they would have called a 3-second penalty on Alabama
yeah,
at any point in the game, I mean, those guys
yeah,
were camped under the basket. I remember watching one play. The guy was underneath there for like 8 seconds
yeah,
in the box. 8 seconds. Official looking
and
at him
somebody,
and never a whistle.
yeah, like it's just really frustrating to me when, regardless, like that game was covered in warts and had trouble. Like it wasn't the prettiest game to watch ever, obviously. Um, but just the fact that like that could have been just a well paced, like fun game to watch regardless, and they just turned it into a slog in the second half,
Yeah.
primarily, and it just became unwatchable, like because both teams you could tell were trying to run and were just trying to kind of institute their own game plan, like what they were trying to do, and they just you know we were trying to run and get some stuff in transition. They were trying to get ahead of us so they could get their 3 point shots off or get to the rim. We were playing pretty good defense, and then they just started blowing the whistle, blowing the whistle, blowing the whistle. And when you look at some of these games and just the number of whistles that go every single game, like it's
Right.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it
Like,
really is. And it's not just that. I
yeah,
mean, there's been several times that we've had a moving screen. They didn't call it.
yeah,
So there's been calls that haven't went against us that probably could have. But at the
yeah,
same time, it just seems like that game in particular. Like I haven't really harped on the
yeah.
officiating too much this season. It's been mostly our fault. But
Right.
but that second half of that game was just atrocious officiating.
It was. It all of a sudden turned from, this is one of the first times in a long time I've been excited during a game, like we could win. This is
And it was a
actually kind of
fun
fun to
game to
watch.
watch because there was
It
contact.
was.
They were playing
Yeah.
hard, and then the officials are like, "Oh no, no, no! This is getting too fun to watch. We got to put a stop to this." But we're only going to do it on
Yeah.
one side of the court.
Yeah. I mean, because I was okay with the contact and stuff that was going both ways. It's like, just put the whistle down, just let him play. Like somebody
Yeah,
really, he's
and not
back
to
and hit somebody.
and not to be a like conspiracy tinfoil hat kind of guy, but let's face it,
Yeah.
Alabama's ranked 10th in the top 10.
Yeah.
How does that look when a 5-9 UK team is beats
Come in, yeah.
your top 10
Shows that they
ranked?
can beat
Yeah,
the ninth ranked team in the country.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. College basketball is just weird this year anyway. Like we stink, Duke stinks,
Carolina
Carolina
stinks.
kind of stinks,
Yeah,
Kansas kind of stinks.
Kansas
Like
stinks just as bad as we do. It's just
they're not
they've
that
got
great
the
yet.
buzzer beaters to drop.
Yeah, like all those shots where those like what 3 games in a row where it came down to a baseline jump shot from Olivier Sarr. It's like if all those go in, like we're sitting okay right now.
Yeah,
They just didn't. So like on paper, like all the blue bloods are just terrible this year.
yeah. I
And it's
mean, and Duke got
yeah,
throttled the other night at home.
yeah, they did. They did. Things are not good in Duke land right now either.
No.
Um, the year where they really need the NCAA tournament to salvage all the budget money they lost last year. It's like, great. All of our marquee teams are bad.
Very bad.
Most of them might not even make it. Like they're going to have to just ride that Gonzaga train like all the way to the bank, I guess. But looking just kind of where things stand right now. So we have that Alabama game, lose that. That really stinks. That was a heartbreaker. We were supposed to play number 5 Texas this past Saturday. that gets canceled due to COVID shenanigans that they never really, as far as I know, said anything about. Then supposed to play tonight against Missouri. That gets postponed to tomorrow night at 7 instead of tonight at 9. Looking at the standings, it's like we're 4-4 in conference play. Overall, we're 5-10. So, for being objective, we look at this like this season's basically a wash, right? Like for the most part,
Yeah.
like it's. I mean, it would take basically a minor miracle for us to put ourselves back into position to get an at-large bid for the tournament. It's just gonna come down
We got to
to,
win the SEC tournament.
yeah, it's gonna come down to they got to still just make sure they have the SEC tournament. We got to go win that thing
No,
if we
you
want
never
to be in
know.
the
The,
big
the
tournament.
officials may be completely Kentucky's favored in the SEC tournament. Like, hey, we got to get these guys in.
Yeah,
We got all of our teams in that we needed to get in, looking good, but we're missing that
yeah,
one team. And Matt Jones, tweeted out the other day with the, about the postpone, the cancellation of the game,
right.
and now that they've rescheduled or whatever, times and stuff to arrange for that, they moved their top 10 ranked Alabama squad to ESPNU
Mm-hmm.
to make sure Kentucky is on ESPN2.
That's right. Yeah,
That just tells
which
you where your ratings in college basketball are at. It is Kentucky, Duke, and North Carolina. If you're not one of those schools, people don't care. You got a very limited base
yeah,
watching it. You got a nationwide base with those teams there.
right, exactly. I mean, they like Kentucky, Duke are like that top echelon of they drive ratings. Like people want, casual fans will tune in to watch them play games.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on
And
vacation and the Cats be playing. Guess what?
yeah,
I'm in a different state, but the Cats are on TV.
yeah, and there's like other Kentucky fans that are just there.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go anywhere and find like a Kentucky bar or something like that. Anywhere.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and like it's funny because people from the NCAA always try to like tout this narrative that they're not really into just big like storylines and stuff coming into the tournament. No, we're just objective. It's just a tournament and just
Yeah.
play. I don't believe that for 2 seconds. Like especially after 2014 when you saw they took number 8 Kentucky and put us just in the bracket of absolute carnage. It's like no, because if Kentucky can run this gauntlet, they've got like Final Four level games for like 4 weeks straight, and that's what happened. Like this is another year where I could see, especially if Kentucky, because I mean that's the thing. Like now we have to look at things just kind of through a different lens. Like it's not let's get ready to try to like get the best seating we can for the tournament. That's usually what we're doing. Now it's we've got however many games left, however many weeks left to get ready for the SEC tournament because we need to string together like 4 straight wins and go to the big dance. Now, especially if we were able in the next like several weeks to get to the point where it looks like the team's finally kind of gelling and just like figuring it out the 11th hour, you better believe that's going to be like a potential storyline kind of thing that some people in higher up places are going to like to see. Like, what if Kentucky plays through their conference tournament, like sneaks into the NCAA tournament, have a really bad seed, but are playing much better than what their seed looks like?
Right.
All of a sudden, they've got some ratings on their hands. So, I mean, smart money says like, yeah, this season's basically kind of over as far as that goes. Like everything's kind of a long shot from here on out, and we may as well just have fun with it. But you never know. I mean,
Yeah, I
we've
mean,
seen crazy stuff like this happen before, so anything's possible.
that
Um,
is true.
I
But I
mean,
just, I don't know. I see another NIT bound team,
yeah,
just to be
I
honest with you.
think at this point, and especially like once the season officially wraps up, we'll be able to look back as just like with football, like we'll be able to look back at this season like a complete body of work and really kind of break down and diagnose a lot of stuff. But really, right now, I think the main thing is just looking at what has happened this year and trying to apply that, like what this means for the future. Because I mean, let's face it. I mean, what is this is Cal's 12th year?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the way I look at it as like the Cal era kind of broken into two different like chapters, two different stages. You got the first 6 years where we had the John Wall team, we had Brandon Knight took us to a Final Four, we had a championship, like another obviously we had the NIT year that just kind of happened. A lot of different reasons that can be broken down for that, but that was followed by a championship appearance, a 38-1 team who went to the Final Four, and then things like ever since then have just never been the same. Like at best, we've gotten to the Elite Eight. We might have had teams that we thought had a pretty decent shot at being in the Final Four or even just winning the national title, like the De'Aaron Fox team.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's like we started out, we were kind of coasting up here, and then we just kind of dropped down to this other level. Um, there's a lot of chatter, especially this year, about Cal's sort of style and the way he assembles his teams, the way he has them play, being an issue. Like I said, we'll talk plenty about that. But like, do you see just in the just to put it kind of simple terms for today, like do you see these kind of problems? Like we need to get more shooters. We need to play like a more modern style of ball. We need to get away from just trying to pack the paint with a bunch of huge guys and just hoping that like defense wins. Like, do you see those kind of things getting fixed like in the
You
near
know,
future? Or you think this is slog?
I don't really see too much of a problem with the way Cal coaches, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you want to live and die by the three, by all means, go ahead and live and die by the three. But
yeah,
that's what you do. If you
yeah.
have an off night, you get beat by the team you shouldn't get beat by.
Right.
And if you have a bad 3-point shooting game in a tournament, I can recall when we had a really good 3-point shooting team. They had a bad night, and guess what? We got beat by a West Virginia team.
Yeah.
They dared us to come into the paint, and we couldn't hit a shot. And we had
Right.
nobody to go in the paint because we hadn't played it all year. When it comes down to it, I think you need a well-balanced team still, especially in college, because there's still too many teams playing that old school style. And,
Yeah.
Be honest with you, nobody watches the NBA anymore because it's not fun to watch.
Right. It's
Um,
got just
so quit trying to make college basketball into what's not fun to watch. But at the same time, it just boils down to this team is not meshing well together. There's
yeah.
no motion on the offense. They're all just standing in one spot. They're making long passes at the top of the key, which get picked off. People aren't moving enough. And then when they do have some motion, they just run into each other. It's like, what are you all doing? It's like you've never ran motion in your life. And that's the problem I see, because we've got some guys that can handle the ball, but for them to get to the paint, we got to have guys that can hit. And as soon as you take Dante Allen out, they pack the paint, and we can't do nothing.
Yeah. I mean, like,
We got to have a
like, would you
balance.
agree that? Would you agree though that like we probably need to play smaller than what Cal likes to play in order to, especially some of these other teams, like to be able to keep up at this point? Because a lot of times, like especially when he goes like two bigs and like Jacob Toppin or something, or if he tries to put like two bigs and just like and two guards and then just a guy to be like a defensive stopper who he thinks can do that, like it just doesn't work. And like you said, we've got like one sharpshooter on the team, and like, and then Davion Mintz has been pretty good as an outside shooter, but like there's just no one really to consistently like spread the floor out. Um,
Yeah, and that's the biggest
uh,
problem. We're just not we're not spreading the floor, and we're not making motion to get lanes open when we're not hitting.
yeah,
And that's the
there's a
biggest
lot
problem
of
I see. We need some pick and roll.
yeah, there's not a lot of that. There's a lot of just everybody just kind of tossing it around at the top of the key, waiting for something to happen, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
We get down to like 7 seconds left, and it's Okay. And then somebody just takes like a long two, and here we are
Yeah,
again.
and Calipari's
Uh,
always been a pick and roll guy. He's always called it dribble drive, but it's just his take on
yeah,
the pick and roll.
yeah,
And we're
exactly.
not doing that this season.
Yeah,
And there's got to be a reason for it because that's typical Cal
stuff.
stuff,
Yeah,
and it's not happening. And it must be because stuff on in practice just isn't allowing for it. Like they're doing it, and it's awful.
yeah,
And when we have seen it on the court, where we actually have seen them, oh, they're setting picks, they're rolling to the basket, oh, they're making motion, oh gosh, they're tripping over each other.
yeah,
You got one guy making motion, the other guy's like, oh, I'm supposed to make motion too, and then they go to the same path and cross each other and bump into each other and turn the ball over, and it's like, oh.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like we see why they're not doing it,
yeah. And
and that goes to not
a
having a good
fresh,
leader on the court. We don't have that.
well, like who have we had this year that's actually been good at like beating their defenders and getting to the rim, like with consistency? I mean, really,
Boston, but he struggled at finishing.
he's yeah, he doesn't finish, and he's really only been able to like get past his defender for like the last what 2 games or
Yeah,
something.
and then
Like
even
it's not
then
been
though, he
consistent.
still can't guard. He's good at
Yeah,
rebounding. Like he's one of our better
yeah,
rebounders. I mean, I'll give him credit where
hmm
it's due. But
yeah,
on defense, he just wants to play uptight in his guy, and he gets beat every single time he
yeah,
does that. He's got to back off of him.
yeah. We hardly have anybody that can like stay in front of their guy this year, which is also like horribly frustrating to watch. Like everybody just gets beat off the dribble, and you're just grateful that you've got a guy like Isaiah Jackson down there some of the time that can help clean up that kind of mess.
Yeah.
But especially like the thing is, I think this year if we had a crop of like freshmen and returning guys that played this kind of style of like going bigger than a lot of people do nowadays, doing that kind of stuff. If we had guys that could, guard, I mean, 2015 was like the big, like your shining example of what Cal wants in a team. A bunch of dudes are all like 6'6" or taller. Everybody can guard everybody. You've got multiple guys that can, beat their man and get to the rim and finish, and a bunch of guys down low that can clean up all the messes, rebounds, blocks, and everything else. Like, and it just works. Everybody knows what they're doing. They run good motion. Like, struggled to shoot from outside.
Right.
You know, another thing. It's like if we'd had like one or two just like really good shooters on that team. Oh my gosh! I mean, you're talking 40-0. But like, I don't know. Like for a team like this to really have success now, like everybody's going to have to be good at what they do. Like you can't have slackers that are just not like playing their part, not doing their role the way they should be. And yeah, I mean, it's another bad year where we thought we were going to have these star level guys, and it's just not worked
Well,
out. I
I think
mean,
another thing you're seeing too is if you look at 90% of the teams
mm,
we're playing against experienced teams.
oh
We
yeah,
don't have that.
no.
And I think
The
we're
only,
just at one
the
of
only
those years where a lot of teams have got a lot of guys that's came back
yeah,
and they've just got a lot of knowledge of, basketball IQ.
mm,
They got a much higher level.
they just know how to play
Yeah.
better. Yeah,
And I think it's what you're seeing with Duke. It's what you're seeing with North Carolina. You got young teams.
mm,
It's what you're seeing with Kansas. Once again, young teams. And they're playing against a bunch of veteran teams. And the veterans are kicking their
yeah,
butts because they know what to do.
yeah,
They're not as athletic.
yeah.
No. But they have better basketball IQ, so to speak. So
Stuff like this makes me harken back to years that like 2014 when the Spurs beat Miami Heat
yeah,
in the finals. And I mean, everybody just thought they're like, oh man, they've got LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and like these other guys that they've pulled in to just go on this run. Like they're gonna, and then the Spurs handled them
mm-hmm.
and handled them pretty good in those last couple games. And I don't remember who it was, but I remember it being said the reason they won and they won in such fashion is because you had, and it doesn't even apply for us this year because we don't have like the best players, obviously.
Yeah,
But it was you've got like the best players assembled, but they're playing against the best basketball team.
yeah,
The best basketball team won.
yes,
and that's what it comes down to. Um, what I'd like to see, and like hopefully, I'm hoping we'll talk, later on about like transfer type stuff and everything changing and whatnot. But you know, especially with the new transfer rules coming in and everything, it'd be nice to get to a point where you see Cal picking up. I mean, I know he tries to pick up more guys that can, stick around for like 3 years or so. And a lot of them either just end up being really good and they leave. Shea Gilgis Alexander, those kind of guys. Um, but that's kind of our meat and potatoes when we do really, really well, is when we have like two or three really, really good freshmen. We've got some guys that probably could, a couple guys that probably could have gone, but they came back anyway. And then some guys that have been in that system
Mm-hmm.
for 3 or 4 years and they know exactly what to do. And the other guys can feed off of
Exactly. And it's
that.
just
And
like
then
this.
those teams
It's
get
just like
rolling.
that Heat Spurs reference you gave.
Yeah.
Popovich had a basketball team.
Hmm.
He expected them all to
Yep.
play his style, and he did. I remember it was funny, not to get off topic, but they were asking Tim Duncan shot a really good from the free throw line, which he typically is atrocious at.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I'll sit there and worked on a little bit." Popovich sat there and told everybody that anybody who shoots under 75% next game has to buy him a Cadillac. So I just asked him what color he wanted because I knew I wouldn't be able to make it. So
I mean, but hey, that's
yeah,
funny. Um, but yeah, that's generally, I think, especially like when you're talking really good coaches, whatever their particular style is. And I mean, there's a lot of just back and forth on like how modernized things need to be and whatever else. But I think as long as you have like just the makeup, like in the players, like it's going to work out. I think that's why our championship team in 2012 was as good as they were. I mean, they only had really six guys in the occasional seventh that played,
mm-hmm.
but it was just that perfect, like superstar level freshman, another really, really good freshman, a competent, freshman point guard who by the end of the year and in the tournament was rolling, two sophomores that, you know, everybody said, oh, Kentucky's got two pros coming back. Like, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
They were really good. And then a senior who just was the glue that
Yeah.
helped hold everything together when things got rough. And it was just like the perfect combination, the perfect little
Yeah,
recipe.
and you can say, "Oh,
So,
you got some redshirt freshmen on the team. It's their sophomore year." And it's like, yeah, but they don't have any court time.
yeah, I mean, there's a huge difference to me. Like, as much as we can speculate how good like an Olivier Sarr or a Davion Mintz are going to be, like look at how this has turned out as opposed to like De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Bam Adebayo's
You've
tape.
got
Like
two seniors there that are transferred
two
in.
seniors
It's
that
a
were good.
whole new style of play, a whole new
Yeah,
system. They're
whole new
freshmen
system. Yeah,
themselves.
yeah. They're in a sense like you could make the case that it might even be harder because they're used to playing a totally different style, a different
Yeah.
system. So they're having to unlearn because the habits they've learned there that were good are now bad habits here. So they've got to just kind of deprogram and then relearn something else
Yeah.
while the freshmen are just trying to learn from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to like these teams, like even when you had like Derek Willis and Dominique Hawkins, they didn't have to be the best players on the court,
Nope.
but they were really good and they knew exactly what they were supposed to do. And the other guy gave the other guys room to figure things out, and be able to kind of play through them. Um, another team that ended up being one of the best in the country and, gets to the Final Four, but like they were really daggone good by the end of it. So I'm hoping that going forward, like that's kind of what we're going to see
Right.
is bringing in more guys to just kind of be the foundation while you bring in the stars to kind of drive the ship. Um, we'll see. I mean, the rest of this year, who knows? Like we're just kind of playing with house money now. We'll just kind of see
Yeah.
see how things transpire. It's kind of melancholy, but
Yeah. Like I said,
whatever.
we got at least the rifle team's competing for national championship again. So
There you go. So, I mean, we got somebody playing at competing at a top level.
yeah, 12-1,
So
not too bad so far. So.
yeah, no, we'll take that. Yeah, unless you got anything else, I think that pretty much wraps things
Pretty
up.
much
It's not
does. We'll
exactly,
we'll try to get back to y'all next week and try to get back in this weekly schedule. But
uh,
with the team playing bad and then missing a game because of COVID, I'm guessing
yeah,
because of COVID.
yeah. Just not really knowing like where things stood. Yeah, but yeah, we'll try to here down the stretch of the season just jump back in
Yeah,
regularly
and
and
hopefully we'll get Clark back at some point because that may be the puzzle piece we need. You know,
yeah, we'll see how he turns out. But I mean, even now, like I'm talking about,
we're so deep in the
which of these
season, it's
guys.
like you might just want a red shirt, dude.
I mean, really, if he can, like, if he's still eligible to, like, because now I just seen today when I was at lunch looking at it's amazing actually looking at the NBA mock draft stuff. Um, say now Isaiah Jackson is cracking the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
Boston's down. I think he's like 25, so right there towards the bottom of the first round, and Clark was number 44.
Yeah.
So who knows? Like this will be kind of this could end up being like the football team. Like we might get to a point where it's like, oh, okay, this guy's coming back. Okay, oh well, this guy's coming back too. So don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. If they do, they'll be a lot better players next year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Whole lot to shake out once this season
Wouldn't you like
comes
to
to
have
an
Quickly
end.
back right now?
Seriously, just think of like what that guy could have done for this team. Competent point guard, can shoot the lights out, like can defend and like stay in front of his guy. It's hard telling what this team looks like quickly. Still, shoot, they'd go out there and just tell him just make 50 points a night against these guys, and
Yeah,
we'll be
you'll be
fine.
good.
He probably would against college competition,
Yeah,
judging how he's doing for the Knicks. So, oh well. Say la
yeah,
vie.
have him and Booker back. That'd be awesome, wouldn't
Yeah, yeah. You talk about a modern style. Be here, 3-point line, throw it to them, get out of the way.
it? You'd be hearing Cal yell, "Shoot it!" Yeah, that's all you'd
Shoot
hear.
it. Saying you catch that ball and the guy's not closer than like 3 feet to you and you don't shoot. Like it's treadmill time for you.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. But yeah, I think that about covers everything I've got for today. So
yeah, it pretty well kind of glosses over this kind of turd we have right now.
yeah, tell me about
but
it.
but yeah, so that'll pretty much do it for this week. As always, thanks again for watching. Be sure to chime in with anything you guys might have in the comment section. We'd love to hear from people, hear what your take on just kind of how things are with this season, kind of going forward, any football stuff, any rifle stuff. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and share this video. Until next time, yeah, go Big Blue.